invocation count is another attribute which will work with this. Now question for you guys, let's say this is my test. Now I have a multiple test cases here. Just simply copy this. All whatever the question I'm asking, all questions from the interviews. Okay. Now I have TC1. I have TC2. Okay. This is TC0, for example. Okay. Now here a priority is 0. Again, if you wanted to give multiple attributes to any of the tests, it is possible for you. You can give multiple annotation also with any of your test case, multiple attributes also with any of your test case. So let's say I have given priority 0, and here I can mention my invocation count equals 5, for example. Okay. Now, if the same way here I can mention my description, and I said sample test, and then I said invocation count equals 3, but in interview here it is for int I equals 0 and I is less than equals 3, for example, I plus plus. As you can look at this test case one more time. Okay, now this is a question asked in interview in automation testing. Again, I'm repeating, find out your answer, how many test cases will execute and which will execute first, which will execute next. You can answer this question on again chat window. Do not mention anything on by unmuting. Okay, you can just find out and paste your answer. I can find out and I can disclose those answers on the group. So look at one more time if you want and just answer it. I wanted to see your answers. You can take your 2 minutes. Swapnil said 12 times. Swapnil, no, I need the answer how many times. Somebody said TC0, 1, 2. Umang and Ankit, I want how many times. Okay, Kapil says test case 0, 10, 1, 5, and 2, 9. So 9, 5, 14, and 10, 24. Somebody says 15, 15, 18. Krishna 18. Amrut, Mani 15. Nitesh 21. Akshay 19. Then Akshay Shinde is again 18. Okay. Okay. See, you need to see the problem statement one more time. You can check the problem statement what I ask, and see that problem statement one more time. Okay. Somebody says 24, 11, 18. Nice, good answers, but near to answers. Try one more another minute, and then I'll execute this. Please unmute yourself. Please mute yourself. Sorry. 24, 21, 21. Okay. So, do you think this will execute? First question. If yes, then let's set the output. Okay. So, I'll show you the output. How many test cases? 18. 18 test cases. If you wanted to go back here and say one class and 18 test cases, if you wanted to go back, see my test case 0 execute 10, test case 1 execute 5 times and test case 3 execute only 3 times. Why? Because I am doing this to only print. This is the logic. This will not again multiply with your invocation count. Think from this side. Okay. This is just the logic. This is within the test. Invocation count is on top of test. It says, I wanted to execute this test case. How many times? So I said 3 times. Whatever logic it is. Whatever logic it is, I wanted to execute this test case for 3 times. So if you can see, this test case I said 10, this test case I said 5 times, this test case I said 3 times. Done. 10, 5 and 3, 18 is the answer. Okay. If I ask you how many times it prints, then the answer may be different. If I said steps test case 3, now it's the same question, but the further question to this, how many times now steps will print? Again the same question. Now you know how many times it executes, but now how many time steps or any print or anything print in the console? You can answer again on the chat window if you want. Somebody says 24, 24, 18, 27. Okay, Nitesh. Okay, 24 Abhishek. Okay, 24 Kapil. 24. Okay, Nilay again 24. Smita 18. Good. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. 18, 18, 14. Okay. 18. Okay, good answers. So let's try again, rerun this code. We wanted to see how many times we can see the print in a console. Okay, that was my question. So let's go back and we can see the console. Okay, so steps, we wanted to see how many times. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10, which is correct. 10 and this is 5, 15, and this time 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 and this 7, 27. This time what happened? This time it takes your this logic of the for loop. This for every single invocation it will print for 4 times or 3 times, whatever the logic you implemented here. For every test invocation. Okay. Okay. Now I am jumping on the next attributes. Let's say new, and I'm going to create a new TestNG class. Next, and I said skip test. Okay. I said skip test, for example. This is my class which says a skip test. Now I have a test case 1 where I'm writing this out in PC1, and I have test case 2. What I said, I wanted to print test case 2. This time I wanted to write here false. Now tell me how many test cases will execute? Okay. Okay. So most of them are answering 1. So let's right click, run as, and run the test. So it will print only TC2. Why? Somebody asked the question, how to skip the test case. How to skip the test case. So by default, every test case is having enable attributes equals true. This is a by default value of every enabled attribute as a true. Okay, when we say now, if I wanted to set this to as a false, that is purposefully I wanted to skip this test case. I said I wanted to skip test case 1 and I wanted to execute only test case 2 from this thing. Okay, so I wanted to execute only test case 2 from a particular channel or particular suit. Same way, if you wanted to skip any of the test case, there is another way also. I don't want to show you this way, but let's say there is a skip exception as well. If I said a skip exception, still it will skip my test case execution. Okay, this will also skip my test execution. We don't need to use this right now. Okay, but enabled equals false will help you to skip your test case. Now a simple question from interview. Let's say I have a priority equals 1 and I have here priority equals -1 and enabled equals true. You can tell me if it will execute or not. Okay, and invocation count. Okay, and invocation count equals 10. Now tell me how many times which test case execute. Please answer it. Test case 2 10 times. Everyone is answering same. Test case 2 at us 10 times. Krishna, yes, Mani, Swapnil, Smita, Roshan, everyone answering 10 times. It is clear for you guys now how this multiple attributes we can use with the single test case. Okay, so now let's run. I wanted to show you the output as well. 10 times, yes, most of you are answering 10 times. Now let's say the output. So your answer is 10 times test case 2 at 10 times, which is correct answer. Okay, now there is another attribute which I wanted to show you. Let's say I'm going to set another class in a group. For example, we wanted to set is in a group. Okay, let's say I have a 3 classes. Okay, okay guys, I'm just using some of the Java concept to save our time. Let's say this is my group TestNG 1 class. I'm creating multiple classes, okay, within the same template. That's what I'm going to show you. Okay, no need to worry, just to show. Okay, and I have TestNG, or we can give it a very better name to this. I just rename this. Let's say I said this is my regression suite, for example. Okay, I said this is my regression suite. Now this is my functional suite. Okay, and this is my unit test suite. Okay, so I have multiple classes within same template. How it works, if you wanted to see if I can expand this class, you can see here. So I have 3 classes within the same template. Within this Java template, I have 3 different classes: functional, regression, unit test suite. Okay, we can create this. There is no challenge to create this. Only thing is your first class should be a public, rest all should be your default classes. Okay, that is possible. Let's say I have TC1 and 2 and 3. Okay, same way I have here functional TC1, then functional TC1, functional TC3, the same way if I can use this I can write here unit test 1, 2, 3, 4. Now there is a requirement from the client or from your execution. Let's say there is a new feature. For example, now these are the test cases. All these test cases are developed for this site. Okay. Now you have test case 1 for regression, then functional, and then your unit test. All these test cases are developed. Now what happened? There is a new functionality developed for this particular page. Let's say there is a new feature added to this page, or we can say, let's say submit. I wanted to do this. Submit is a new feature that comes for this particular page. If we said submit to this now when we say submit, this submit feature may impact on my this existing feature, like my login, like my these features, on any other features. I wanted to check if this new feature will not impact on any of this feature. So what I did, I can have all these my test cases ready here with me. I wanted to identify which test case to be executed before this new feature to test. That means if I wanted to automate this feature, before that I do have all this existing feature. If this is delivered for functional testing, let's say for manual testing, before that I can execute existing test cases to see if any existing feature is break due to this submit feature. So what I'll do, I can add here another attribute, that is a submit feature. I can say I add another attribute which says a submit feature, but this time I wanted to group the test cases which I wanted to execute when submit feature is delivered. That means submit feature may impact on only these areas. So I identify those test cases and I group those test cases with the group name submit feature. Let's say test case 1 from the regression suite, test case 3 from your functional suite, and test case 2 from your unit test suite. So these are the 3 test cases I have identified. Let's say there are in the suite, most of the time there are 100 plus test cases. So you can identify those test cases with the groups. You can create your own group, and then you can execute your test suite by which mentioning I wanted to include the group name to run this group which has a name submit feature. You can make that also changes into your particular test suite, where you can mention this is the group which I wanted to execute, and it will execute only test cases which has the group feature. The name is submit feature. This is how your group will execute. Okay, now group feature I cannot show you because there is I wanted to do some settings on my XML side, but group feature is very important, which was not possible particularly into your JUnit, okay, which is possible in your test. Okay, so with the group you can execute multiple test cases and you can sort out your particular group for any new feature and execute only that, and you mention like I executed this 40 test cases. those are dependent on this submit or impacted by this submit feature, and this is the output. Out of this 10 fail, 10 pass, or whatever it is, the results you can share with your team. This is how you can do the groups. Now let's say I have test case 1. Now I'm forgetting about groups. Okay, now let's say I have test case 1, test case 2, test case 3, but my test case 2 is depends on which method, which depends on my test case 3 method. That means if there is no priority, so how it works, if I execute this class, definitely test case 1 execute first, then test case 2, then test case 3. But in test case 2, what I have mentioned depends on methods. This test case 2 is depends on method test case 3. That means if I execute this, it will come here, but it will jump to test case 3 because this test case 2 is depend on test case 3. That means if I can show you in this class, this is my login. This is my, for example, compose. This is my, I'm doing this, okay, now, and this is my logout. So previously we set up with the priority. Now how we can say, I can say my compose, because compose will execute first with the order. So what I can mention here depends on methods. Which method? I can say it is depend on my login method. So initially, once my test case comes here, that means my execution comes here, it will directly jump on my login first, then this will execute, and then by default your logout will execute. This is also possible. Now there are questions by people who ask, like, let's say this is my priority. I said this is my priority -2, and this is my priority 1. So now how it executes? Which one execute first? Which one execute second? What do you think? You can answer your question, answer in the chat window. So compose will execute first because you said priority -2, or login will execute first. This is again one of the interview question. Okay, most of the time people may ask you on TestNG such type of question. Okay, somebody says yes, Anand said login and then compose. Compose and login, Amrut. Okay, no login, Keshav. Okay, login first. Sequence of attributes considered. See, we have used a multiple attributes, correct? Sequence, but which sequence is used first? That you need to find out. Login and compose. Okay, login and compose depends on method login. Okay, Keshav, correct. Then log out. Okay, login because depends on used, correct? Okay, so you can try this. Better I can answer. You can try this. Which one execute first? Which one execute second? Okay, because these are the basic questions people may ask you in your TestNG questions or TestNG interviews.